comments on certainly the action from this morning with Coach Swinney, and then again, I know there's probably a lot of other ground we can cover, and happy to dive into it. Just excited and humbled to be able to have the contractual agreement, which feels transactional, but there's so much more to what the action is this morning for Coach Swinney's commitment to Clemson and us to him, his character, morals, ethics, how he leads Clemson football, and those 130 men on the current roster, let alone the former players, and his connectivity throughout Clemson football family is second to none. And we experience that, we feel it day to day. But I think actions like this today really just emphasize and further stitch together our support of him and how he leads that program in an incredibly changing environment that is college athletics, and the true north that he leads as a person, let alone as a coach and a leader for such a prominent program for Clemson University, let alone Clemson athletics, is a testament to this type of investment. Certainly, it was an effort for us to be proactive. The market's changed significantly over the past 9 months with a lot of coaching changes and coaching contracts. And so we called Coach. I called Coach and his representatives, not he to us. So that proactive, intentional investment and recognition of the changing market and prominence for us to continue to position him from a investment and a contractual standpoint was very intentional for me, specifically over these first 8 months of the job. And so the conversations, I know it's here, it's week 2, and it was just announced, but this was not a hurry up and get something done because of the market and the changing market recently. It's been an ongoing, really smooth dialogue over the spring and summer. Obviously the support of President Clements and our Board of Trustees today is their formal action and show of support for Coach Swinney and for Clemson football. And that alignment that we talk about so much and have for the past decade here, this is a great example of that. And the support from President Clements and the board to show that to Coach Swinney, and just us emphasizing our continued investment in football. And we know that the business aspect of that and the ROI that football creates for Clemson athletics, let alone the community and institutional support and lift that it brings, today is just a double down on that effort and that proactivity that we've shown Coach here over this spring and summer. And so excited to officially announce it. It's been embargoed a bit. We've wanted to make sure the timing was right, and to have this public show of support to him. Again, very intentional and a big day, a really exciting day for Clemson and for Coach Swinney, and just that reciprocity of the agreement. So happy to certainly talk on any details therein. I know we've provided some of those, but just that bigger picture view of the commitment beyond just the dollars and cents was absolutely the guiding light on this one.
How important was it to get him, to make him one of the top 3 though, as far as per year salary?
Yeah, certainly the achievements. He's one of 2 coaches that have won multiple national championships. He's has the highest winning percentage of any active coach. So what he's achieved and accomplished certainly makes the market and quite frankly the negotiations really straightforward, if I'm being honest. And conversely, want to make sure we're investing and showing that support for Clemson for what's to come. And so the expectations that we're going to continue to invest in Coach Swinney in all aspects of our football program, this is certainly an example of that. So it's the look back, Will, that he's earned and has positioned himself to be at the top of the market, but then also are a show of that commitment that we expect to continue to be there for Clemson football for years to come.
Did it help that you had Tony and Brent making a little bit north of $2 million each, that you kind of freed up some funds there, and then this isn't a great outlay of money. I mean, it's only going to be $1 million more this year, and 10 years from now, just $3 million more than the previous contract. So it's not like this great outlay of cash.
Yeah, I follow you, David, and have ultimate respect for the magnitude of this It's a $115 million contract. It's a lot of dollars. But to your point, is we've been committed to Coach Swinney, and he's been ranked in the top couple 3 for the last handful of years. Certainly changing landscape and financial planning within college athletics and for Clemson. And so really a lot of the rigor that we've had over the past couple of weeks has been on our stress testing and the fiduciary planning of this commitment, because while it's an extended commitment from what it has been, it's balances within all 21 sports that we have and how we look to invest appropriately and within market. And so you're right, the financial analysis, and you all know my background coming to Clemson as the chief financial officer initially, that rigor from our staff and Kevin White and team has been strong, and really that's where our board spent a lot of time. They recognize the market, absolutely recognize the shared commitment and fit with Coach Swinney. Want to make sure that this makes sense from a business standpoint for us, and so excited to stress that and be able to move forward with it.
Is there an Alabama buyout clause or provision there in case Nick Saban decides to retire and Dabo's alma mater comes calling?
There is, Trevor. That's not new though. So there's an augmentation, I guess is I think the word we use for an Alabama buyout. In recognition of that, but like I said, that's been in effect for 3 or 4 years now, so that's not new. It's just reaffirmed. But I would tell you, I think how I look at that is Coach's commitment to Clemson. And if you were to look at the market for the buyouts, Coach's buyout to Clemson, even before any of the additive for Alabama specifically, is the highest of his market, of the top 10 markets. So that commitment that he has to Clemson sets the market. And again, it's dollars and cents, and that's important, but that shows also Coach's willingness and commitment to Clemson. So that's how I see any of those buyout dollars, because there's a lot of them around the country and in the market that aren't a whole lot, if any. And so even those dollars there from Coach is emblematic of his commitment to Clemson.
I guess you mentioned the timeline. I think you said it the last couple of weeks, but you also said back in the spring. So I guess what was the initial contact with him about new contract? Was that back in the spring, or when would you say that?
It was, John. Yeah, it was early in the spring, maybe even in the winter, just as I was getting settled, and certainly had conversations with President Clements and our board. But those contacts weren't to sit down and begin to negotiate. It was just a recognition of, hey, the market's changing. We want to be proactive with Coach, and let's just and had the dialogue. And so as the spring and summer transitioned and other contracts were approved at other places, we just wanted to make sure that we were aligned on recognizing the market, and then that allowed me to have conversations with our board and our leadership of a strategy for Clemson. And so really natural flow of the dialogue. And again, I called Coach, so to speak, his representatives. That was where the communication went, and that was very intentional for Clemson. And I think it frames a little bit of just the expectations from Coach is that this is really Clemson being proactive for him and not the other way around.
As the negotiations progressed with you and Dabo, did it get to the point where you purposely said, okay, I'm going to wait until the Kirby Smart and Nick Saban deals are done?
There's always strategy, Scott. There's always strategy, and so had some, stay in touch with colleagues, et cetera. So had some expectation or some assumptions that there was certainly movement within the market. And as Will was asking earlier, where Coach has achieved, it's a very small market. I remember back to working with Dan, where we've done, this is the 4th contract since I've been here over the past 10 years that we've done with Coach. And so the prior 3, the market and the negotiations weren't as straightforward. Just because Coach was, we were having achievements, wanting to invest, market was moving, but what he's achieved and where our investment is for Clemson football in all aspects, it's a small group. And so did we intentionally wait till some of these? Not necessarily, but was very intentional about understanding that the market was still moving even past December, where there was a lot of coaching changes, and tried to make sure we were strategic about how we balanced all that together.
I think this question you might like this one, but the difference between Clemson over the past decade and other schools is that, the board of trustees, the president, the athletic director, the coaching staff have all had an incredible synergy. Do you feel like this shows that despite the fact that Dan Radakovich has moved on, President Clements is, how many ever years in now, but that synergy is still there and the commitment to winning? I
think, David, this there couldn't be a better example of that than this action today. And we talked about this, whether I was over 2020 and 21 from a COVID management standpoint. Certainly, I'm not naive that my transition from an in-house hire to here just speaks to the strength of that alignment and relationships and decision making. And I think moments like this are when it gets stressed and it gets flexed, and now you show that when it shows through. Because it's easy to talk about alignment when we're winning football games and winning national championships in soccer and ACC championships in a lot of our sports. So it's easy to talk about it when it's good, but not that this is bad. But when there are moments of heavy decisions, important commitments, that this shows that alignment. So it's the flex of when it's tough time, so to speak. Again, not saying that that's what this is, but when there are those seminal type moments, it's really when that alignment gets flexed and when it holds true, such as this example, it really further exemplifies that we know to be true and are very intentional about that alignment.
Is this part of your, considering recent bumps for soccer coaches, baseball, is this part of your master strategy to do this across the board for all sports? In other words, keep Clemson at the top of the pay echelon for across the country?
You give me a lot of credit for this, all this strategy, Scott. But and talk a lot about expectations about all of our sports and the expectations that we know to be true for winning championships, conference championships, national championships. The investment, sure, that starts with coaches, or that the coaches are a component of it, but it means a lot of different things: facilities, resources, support. That are all of our sports. Absolutely, this is an example of it, and you ticked off some that we've run through here over the spring. And so, listen, we have to manage the business. We have 21 sports that all need investment and support, and we can't set the market in all of our sports, right? Not naive to that, but absolutely have vision and have strategy as we plot the areas for investment, and it starts with people. And so I'm absolutely apt, maybe more apt to focus and invest in people, and then infrastructure and things around it I think will come with that. Start with people, and so financial commitment to the right people is absolutely an example of this, and is absolutely strategy and vision from my chair.
As salaries continue to go up and more investing, just how do you feel about the ACC right now and where they are? What have kind of some of those conversations been like recently?
Yeah, certainly the changing landscape and therefore the finances of it, Matt, has never been more dynamic. We're incredibly fortunate to have President Clements for as well-read and as connected as he is within the athletics space to help lead us and recognize that. And our board, again, is incredibly well-read and gives time to understand it. The uncertainty of it is, as I said, never been more dynamic. My job is to always position Clemson best we can. Commissioner Phillips and how we are working within the ACC. It's been written about that there's some committees that are looking at uneven revenue distribution, other revenue opportunities that the ACC is looking to add, sure, TV negotiations, et cetera. So that's been well written about and very, very invested and spent a lot of bandwidth along with Jim, with President Clements on that. And so how we balance what we can forecast the future to be from a revenue standpoint, certainly that guides where we can commit from an expense standpoint. But I've never been more convicted and convinced of where Clemson is positioned within the landscape, our ability and our support of IPTAY and our fans to continue to drive revenue to help make business decisions like this possible.
How hard is it to try to, I guess, balance that when there's some uncertainty there, but you're also, committing more and more?
Yeah, this is a 10-year outlay, and the landscape is, to have that length of horizon. It's tough. Gosh, you lose confidence, so to speak, in the projections the further you go out, of course. So, but that's where, again, commitment from our board, David, we've talked about the alignment that feel so convinced of the commitment that's going to continue to be there from Clemson for us to continue to invest in anticipation and with strategy that the finances and the business is going to continue to be there to support it.
You mentioned trying to do what's best for Clemson and the revenue gap between conferences. Is it Clemson's intention to try to stick around with ACC long term, or is it possible that you guys join another conference, just long term speak? Yeah,
again, focus, as you said, Davis. My job is to focus on Clemson and make sure we're as well positioned and well read for the long term. And so we'll continue to focus there. That being said, the work and the support within the ACC has been strong. Commissioner Phillips has led well, been incredibly transparent, and has everything's on the table, to quote Commissioner, about strategies. And so I've talked about this, I think, in the earlier in the winter when I transitioned roles. I'm very thoughtful. I try to be mindful of, being newer to this role still. And having the decorum and the relationships within our league as such, but also very much recognizing it's Clemson and the brand and the importance that we have within the league. And so how we lead, and I'm fortunate to be on some committees within the league that are by design, as is Jim. And so I think that balance of minding and looking out for Clemson, of course, and the other athletic directors in our league would absolutely, that's our charge, but also doing it in concert to help further and grow the ACC from a business positioning is that balance that we try to strike.